Hello everyone and welcome to this new Dota Underlords video. So today we're going to be looking at more previews for the big update that is coming this week basically. I was going to say next week, but the new week has already started. So I skipped one day, did make a video when part 3 came out. So now I'm going to be making one that will combine both parts together. Both of the new parts, that is. So both of them added new heroes to the game, as well as some new feature that I'll be talking about shortly. So it was kind of sensible, since both of them are heroes, just you can still talk about them in kind of the same breath. So I think it's going to be fine. So first of all, part 3, 3 new heroes await us. Shadow Demon, Sven, and Bristleback. So Shadow Demon, first of all, is a heartless demon, so that set of tags already sounds like an early game powerhouse. We've never had a tier 1 demon before, and now we do. Plus, a Heartless tag makes it very easy to complete Heartless in the early game, considering the new addition of Lifestealer, as well as, having Drow and Pudge already there. It's going to be really easy to even make 4 Heartless, like at round 5, perhaps even. So that's going to be very interesting. Of course, first of all, this means Heartless for everybody, basically. I'm pretty sure everyone will run Heartless now, like, without exception. Everyone will find some way to fit them in their lineup. Except maybe mages, because, of course, mages don't need them, really. But anyway, Heartless Demon, yeah. So, a pretty big early game powerhouse, and then probably going to get rid of him later in the game, because, doesn't have any sort of like core alliances, you would see, like warriors or hunters, assassins, anything like that. So might have no place in the late game. Although the ability is kind of cool. So the ability is Demonic Purge. It repeatedly purges its target, removing buffs and slowing movement and attack speed for 5 seconds. When Demonic Purge ends, the target is dealt damage. So some people say these buffs might include alliance bonuses. You can't really be too sure. It's because we don't fully know the way they're coded. If it was Dota Auto Chess, there it would definitely be alliance bonuses would definitely count as buffs. But in this game, it's not entirely clear. So it might be alliance bonuses, or it might be just some powerful buffs that heroes receive from their spells. For example, Troll Warlord's Fervor, let's say, or maybe ACES armor from his Berserker's Pulp, because when Axe taunts enemies around him, he gains bonus armor. So Demonic Purge should probably remove that, for example. I'm sure there are a lot of other abilities that I just can't remember off the top of my head right now, but yeah, it would make sense if it removed alliance bonuses, because otherwise it might just be too situational, too weak. But then again, these tags are really strong, so it might still be a staple in the early game for a lot of people. Let's just say that. So next up, we've got Bristleback, a tier 4 Brawny Savage. So one interesting thing I wanted to talk about here is the fact that we have more heroes that don't obey the standard, species and class rule. Before we've had Magnus, who was a Shaman Brute, and so basically 2 classes and no species, so to speak. And now we have 2 heroes who both have 2 different species and no class. So the continuation of kind of the trend that's been set with Viper, where basically they keep hammering in that idea that classes and species are no longer a thing. They are just alliances, and you better get used to it, because this is just how things are going to be now. So Bristleback, again, a Brawny Savage. So first of all, his Brawny tag means that Brawnies are going to be a lot easier to complete, because before, when Disruptor used to be 4 cost, Brawnies kind of dominated the game after they received that rework where their kill count is added as health to their health pools. When that update hit, when they were reworked like that, they completely dominated the game. But when Disruptor became Ace tier, that was no longer the case. So right now, with another Brawny added who isn't Ace tier, it may be once again fairly easy to complete 4 Brawnies, which means that, they might get all of their old power back. Although there is a different feature that will prevent this from happening, from constantly happening, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, this is very interesting. So his ability is Quill Spray, which does damage to the enemy, so it will trigger the Savage bonus, at least in its current form. We don't know, it might be reworked, but so far there has been no info on that. So we're just going to have to guess. So Quill Spray, Bristleback sprays quills from his back, damaging nearby enemy units. Enemies take additional damage for each time they have been hit with a Quill Spray this round. So some people may assume that Quill Spray, spraying things from the back thing, means that he will only hit targets behind them. Based on how this ability works in Dota, I think this is a misconception, because in Dota, this ability, he just sprays quills everywhere around him, and that's it. So, like, the reason they say from his back, because they only grow on his back, but this doesn't mean he will only spray them backwards. No. In Dota, he just sprays it everywhere around him like any other, AoE ability, like Tidehunter's Ravage, basically, the same kind of thing. So I'm assuming that in Underlords it's going to be the exact same thing. So I'm guessing this will have reduced mana cost, because this mana cost is really low in Dota as well, and a really short cooldown, so you can spam it continuously. Because, again, not only does this ability do very little damage by itself without stacks, in Dota it's also physical damage, so it's going to be really hard to do any meaningful damage without it, especially for a tier 4 unit. It's going to be hard to have any meaningful impact. So yeah, I'm assuming that it's going to be short cooldown, low mana cost, super spammable, and will help him not only build up his Savage bonus, but, he can quickly ball out of control using this ability, and also rack up a lot of kills, which will contribute to his Brawny health. Unfortunately, being tier 4 it kind of shows up and gets upgraded late into the game, so you might want to protect it in order for it to, build up that bulk that's needed to become a real Brawny. So, next up, we have our first Ace tier unit here, and it is Sven. So Sven is a human-scaled knight. So first of all, I want to give a great shout out to myself, because I fully predicted these alliances, because these alliances are accurate with his Dota 2 lore. So in case you don't know, in Dota 2, Sven's title, because every hero kind of actually has a title as sort of an homage to Dota 1. In Dota 2, Sven's title is Rogue Knight. So that's why he should be a knight, and he should have been in DAC as well. And the reason he is human and scaled is because he is a son of a human knight and a fish lady that hasn't ever been shown or named. So yeah, he's basically half a human, half a fishman, and he's a knight. So these tags are completely and totally on point. So the reason he was a demon warrior in DAC is because, first of all, he was a warrior instead of knight, because I think in the Chinese translation he is called rogue swordsman instead of rogue knight, or something like that. At least that's what I heard. I don't actually speak Chinese. And the reason he was a demon there is because of his Dota 1 model. Basically, most of the heroes in Dota Auto Chess obey the species that come with their old models from Dota 1. For example, Sven used a model of a unit called Felguard, which are a type of demons that could be encountered in Warcraft and can be still encountered in World of Warcraft today. Sven was basically using a model of a demon in Warcraft 3 Dota or Dota 1, so they gave him the same tag in Dota Auto Chess. Now, since obviously Underlords operates on Dota 2 lore, these tags are now in play. And I couldn't be happier. So, Sven is an ace of knights, actually. When Sven casts God's Strength, which is his active ability, talk about it in a second, all allied knights lose their Knight Alliance bonus and gain increased damage per Knight Alliance level for the remainder of the round. So, it's a very interesting new spin on the ace concept, because as we can clearly see, it completely removes the normal alliance bonus and replaces it with something else. So this could have some very interesting implications. First of all, it removes the nice trademark, survivability, so it is going to make them a lot squishier. If played badly, this could basically mean that you could unexpectedly just get completely deleted out of nowhere, last a lot less than you should expect to. However, first of all, Sven's scale tag should sort of remedy this issue, because knights already have a lot of armor even without their shields. For example, Omni Knight, Abaddon, and Dragon Knight all have 10 armor, which is higher than the average of 5. And also, Sven having the scale tag means that it's very easy to build up scaled synergy. Just shove in Sven, Viper, and there you have it, in order to get some protection from mages. And second of all, sometimes you can position Sven properly so that he can activate his ability either after the knights have already survived the burst, or instead you can give him an item like Mask of Madness that will silence him, so that this ace effect doesn't come into play at all. Mask of Madness, while it will reduce the damage output drastically, Sven being an ace and having a passive ability that basically increases his damage output as well, should still do decent damage. So in some situations, it might be okay to just completely ignore this ace effect while still playing Sven. His active ability is God's Strength, of course. So what it does is essentially gives him amplified damage output. The exact same thing it did in Dota, as well as in Dota Auto Chess when he was introduced. So yeah, by itself, this ability just amplifies his damage, but with the ace effect, all of the knights gain more damage, and he does as well, because he is a knight, obviously. And his other ability passive is called Cleave, which is interesting because in Dota it was called Great Cleave. So it's not so great anymore, I guess. So yeah, it's passive ability that basically gives him a Battle Fury type effect, where his attacks hit not just the one opponent he's targeting, but other opponents around the target as well, for a percentage of his damage. So an interesting concept that Sven has introduced to the game is that I feel like you can now go for a sort of good stuff knight build, because normally what you want to do with knights is basically first of all level up to 7 or 8, and then just roll as much as you can while still keeping up your economy in order to get as many 3-star knights as possible. And also, in the meantime, collect Necrophos and Witch Doctor, because these two will allow you to sustain a lot longer. And basically, you can out-sustain everything using that, while your Luna and Chaos Knight whittle down the enemies and just outlast them, basically. Sven introduces this concept where you could level up a bit faster, to level 9 or maybe even 10, and then look for ace tier units such as Sven, Troll Warlord, and maybe even Disruptor. And then what you could do is you could replace Batrider with Sven to have 6 knights, and this will allow you to play Troll Warlord as well, which will then still give you the troll bonus, and you will have another powerful ace. So, yeah, 6 knights, 2 warlocks, and troll warlord is 9 units, and then 10th unit optionally could be either another scale in the form of Viper, or you could get something like another Warlock, like a Disruptor, because it's yet another Ace. Obviously, with just 3 Warlocks, Disruptor's Ace effect won't really do much. But still, it's really good. It's really good to have 3 Aces like that you could fit into your lineup. So that is a very cool addition to the game. I personally am super hyped about all of these changes, and then the other ones that I'm going to talk about right now. Before I do that, I wanted to quickly mention that I took kind of a different approach with this review that I'm doing right now. Well, with this preview, excuse me. The approach of that was that I basically already saw everything introduced in these posts before I sat down to make a video. Previously, I would try to avoid watching anything or reading anything anywhere about these posts and just see them for myself and record this reaction live. But in this case, I saw everything first, kind of decided to do some more research to come up with some more things to say, and then record. So here I am. Okay, so now on to the second part, or in this case it's part 4 of the big update preview. So it looks like it's going to be the last batch of heroes they introduced, because, with these 2 completed, the total number of heroes introduced in this update, or to be introduced in this update, goes up to 12. And that's the number they kind of promised before. So, the big update part 4. New heroes, more new heroes, and and also with this update they've introduced a new jail mechanic. So we'll talk about it in a second, but first of all, new heroes, of course. Showing you the faces of the last 2 heroes that are part of the big update. So first of all, the word faces is very rich, and I'm pretty sure that was an intentional joke, because as you can see, neither of them have a face. So this is Io, a hero that just basically a glowing ball of light. And this is Faceless Void, who literally has the word faceless in his name. So, well played, developers there. Very well played. So first of all, we've got Io, also known as the Guardian Wisp, or just Wisp, or you can also call it 10, because as you can see right now, this looks very similar to number 10. Io is a primordial druid, kind of a weird set of tags that we haven't really seen before. Also, it's a tier 3. So primordial is the most likely alliance to be reworked in the next patch, because it's kind of just really awkward. After Summoning Stone has been removed from the game, this alliance basically became completely useless. Like, you don't really go for 4 primordials. There is just no reason to, because they just don't do anything, those Eidolon things. So hopefully it either receives a rework, or there is another way to buff it. Buff the Eidolons, that is. We'll see about that. So the Druid tag is very interesting, though. This means it pairs up well with things like Treant or Enchantress, and basically makes early game of Druids even stronger, because you can go 4 Druids a lot earlier, even without having Lone Druid, which is, a tier 4, so you can only get it at level 6 currently. But now we have 4 different Druids that are all available before level 6. So that means that the early game power of the Druids might increase even further. So that's a very interesting idea. It kind of seems spooky to make Druids even stronger in the early game, and just basically give you an easy win streak, unless everyone can test them, which they probably will in this case. But I don't know. They might rework Druids, or the new mechanic might help with it a bit. Talk about it in a few moments. So, relocate. Io teleports away to revive a dead hero. Io and the hero return with full health and are purged of negative effects. So, first of all, I'm guessing this ability is the active, and the other one is sort of kind of a passive. So, relocate. In Dota, relocate is a spell that just basically allows Io and another hero teleport anywhere on the map. So obviously it doesn't revive anything. You grab another hero, and together you teleport to any other place on the map. And then after a short while, IO is brought back, and the IO player can choose whether or not bring someone else back where they came from, or just go back alone. So the whole grabbing other hero aspect is achieved through the other ability called Tether. So IO tethers to the nearest allied unit and pulls itself towards it. IO and the tethered unit gain attack speed and damage reduction. The tether will break if they move far apart. So basically, very interesting thing is here that they've essentially introduced another ability which they aren't talking about here. So normally in Dota, when IO is tethered, what it also does is shares IO's health and mana regeneration with the target hero, as well as increases their movement speed. Here, in this game, what Tether does is give the target unit attack speed and damage reduction, and of course IO itself. So the attack speed and damage reduction buff actually comes from another ability of IO called Overload. And if my memory serves me correctly, I think this ability actually causes IO to lose health over time. It can be switched on and off, and when it's turned on, IO constantly loses health. But more often than not, the bonus to attack speed and of damage reduction is worth it, as long as you're smart and pair up with the right hero. So I'm guessing it's going to be kind of the same thing here. Since it gives attack speed and damage reduction, you want to pair IO with someone tanky, as well as someone that could do a lot of damage with this attack speed bonus, and who presumably goes to the front line. So the first thing that comes in mind, obviously, is Treant Protector, a fellow druid, who is also tier 3, and who is one of the premier frontliners in the game right now. So other things might include Doom. Of course, Doom does a lot of damage and could benefit greatly from the percentage damage reduction. Another thing could be melee assassins like Bloodseeker, or even the newly introduced Nyx Assassin. Chaos Knight is another option. Actually, for a while, Chaos Knight and Daya were best buddies in Dota, so that's a little fun fact for you. Yeah, so basically something that wants to be at the front and will take some damage, as well as could benefit from the attack speed, is what IO wants to pair up with. The next one is Faceless Void, an ace of assassins, interestingly enough, and also a primordial assassin. So essentially, we have 9 assassins again, after Viper has been moved from, assassin to scaled. And also, again, primordial. Hopefully they'll do something amazing with primordial bonus, otherwise it's going to be a bit of a disappointment. Oh, also, before I forget, quickly gotta mention, right here it says IO, the beep update, boop soon. So the reason for it is that in Dota, and I assume in this game this will be the case as well, IO doesn't talk. Instead, it just goes beep, boop, beep, boop, well, hopefully I'll put up some other sound that, sounds more like the actual hero instead of what I've just produced. And you'll get the idea, but basically, yeah, that's a cool little reference right there. Sort of an Easter egg, Again, back to Faceless Void. Faceless Void is an ace tier hero, a primordial assassin, and an ace of assassins. So the cool thing here is that Faceless Void's ace ability dramatically increases the survivability of assassins, which is something they desperately need because, assassins, they jump in, and if they're met with someone who is doing a corner strat, they will be in major trouble because they can just get completely evaporated unless they are upgraded enough. But this ability can fix them, can help them remedy this problem somewhat. So allied assassins have a chance to dodge attacks by jumping backward in time, fully avoiding both physical and magical damage. So basically, every time a hero takes an instance of damage of any kind, be it a physical attack, be it a Laguna Blade, be it a, another kind of stun ability, or even an AoE ability, they have a chance to completely negate the damage that this ability deals. So, in actuality, this whole ACE effect comes from Dota as well. It's been there for a while, and it is actually one of the abilities of Faceless Void. So, it used to be a regular ability called Backtrack, but then eventually it was removed, and then it was introduced again as a talent, so like an optional upgrade that you could pick later in the game. So, interesting thing here is that this ability only prevents damage. So, for example, if a Chaos Knight throws stun at you, and this backtrack thing triggers, you won't take the damage from the stun, but you will still be stunned. Same thing, for example, Ravage, if you get hit by Ravage, if your assassin gets hit by Ravage here, it might prevent the damage, but there is no way it will prevent the stun. It will still be stunned. Even despite going back in time, you can't avoid being stunned or silenced or what have you. And then we have its ability, which I'm really excited about. So it's called Chrono Cube. Creates a blister in space-time, stunning all units caught in the cube. Faceless Void has increased movement speed and attack speed while in the cube. So first of all, obviously this ability comes from Dota, but it's been altered in order to conform to the realities of Dota Underlords. In Dota, in regular Dota, this ability is called Chronosphere, and it's an actual semi-sphere instead of this cube thing. So important thing is it stuns both enemies and allies. Like there is actually no way to avoid it. Whoever gets caught in it will be stunned, will be frozen in time. There is no way to avoid it. The only one who won't be affected is Faceless Void himself. Except he will also be affected positively by, increasing movement and attack speed. So, works pretty much like in Dota, you hope and pray that there are more enemies than allies caught in it, then you scream at your screen, and then you hope for the best, Considering Faceless Void is an assassin, at least he will hopefully manage to do enough damage in order for this ability to be worth it. Hopefully, anyway, you could give it like, an Assault Cuirass, a Moonshard, or a, let's say, Daedalus, but I mean, obviously, preferably Moonshard, I'm guessing. Because since it's an ace unit, it will have decent attack damage already, and then you have Assassin Crit on top of that, so yeah, I think Moonshard is preferable here. And he just uses Chronosphere, everyone is stunned, everyone is frozen, and hopefully Faceless Void does enough damage to justify this kind of a self-detriment. So this also creates an interesting dilemma for assassins, because this means that they, normally assassins want to get 3 stars in order to be strong enough to survive in the late game. Because, if your assassins are just 2 stars, they can get completely deleted by the enemy spells. Or, any sort of AoE attacks even. So normally you stop leveling up at either level 7 or level 8 and try to reroll as much as possible, looking for those 3 stars. But Faceless Void here creates an interesting dilemma because considering it's an ace, you might want to level up a bit harder, maybe even to level 9 a bit earlier, and then start rerolling in order to actually find Faceless Void and upgrade it to 2-star. Depending on how strong it is, that might be entirely worth it, even if your whole team remains at 2 stars and nothing ever goes to 3. Also, obviously, I guess considering it's an ace of assassins, you could probably give it Mask of Madness, and it will still do decent damage. But considering this ability is so powerful, I guess it's better used in some other way. So anyway, that's it for the heroes. I'm guessing those are like I said, considering a total amount of heroes they've introduced is 12, I don't think they will give us any more. And instead, they're already moving on to different mechanics that hopefully can change the game for the better and help the players handle the new additions. So the mechanic is called Jail, a very appropriate name for such a setting. So let's see what it does. Let's read it together, shall we? Even though Season 1 adds 12 new heroes to the roster, we have decided not to remove any beta season heroes. You might be asking yourself, won't this make it harder to rank up heroes, like upgrade them to 2 and 3 stars? And I think while this concern is certainly valid, it might not be entirely so, because, if we look at Dota Auto Chess today, there are only just a bit fewer heroes there than this Underlords will get with this update. Like I've done some calculations here, and basically the total amount of heroes in Underlords after the patch is going to be 17 tier 1 heroes, 16 tier 2 heroes, 16 again tier 3 heroes, 14 tier 4 heroes, and 9 ace tier heroes for a total amount of 72. Now, in Auto Chess, the total pool of heroes is 14 tier 1 heroes, 15 tier 2 heroes, 15 tier 3 heroes, 14 tier 4 heroes, and 12 tier 5 heroes. I don't think there are aces in Auto Chess. So for a total amount of 69, so just 3 less. And I think the only thing that they did to sort of help with the selection was to make it so that some 5-cost units are unavailable for every game, and they are randomly chosen. So any heroes of another cost are fully available, and people are still playing this game. So I'm guessing it's not too bad. Maybe 3 stars are still possible. So don't be too concerned, but especially so because of this new mechanic. So let's continue reading now. This is where the jail comes in. Every 24 hours, a number of heroes are removed from the pool. This system will also make sure that when creating the list of heroes to ban, that all alliances can still be completed. So yeah, 2 important things here. Heroes might be banned for the day, but all alliances will still be completable up to like the highest tier. So basically, you will always be able to complete 6 knights, or 6 warlocks, or 4 trolls, or 4 druids, or anything of that sort. Even if, for example, Treant Protector might be banned, which will be a huge hit against those druids, you will still be able to complete 4 druids using, Enchantress, Nature's Prophet, Io, and Lone Druid. Same thing with, let's say, Assassins. Although there are 9 Assassins, so I think this is a bad example because you will always be able to complete, 6 Assassins, considering there are 9 in total. Same thing for example, Brownies. There are 5 Brownies total in the pool now, together with Bristleback. If one of them gets banned, for example, Bristleback again, you will still be able to complete 4 Brownies if you need to. So this is very interesting. And I think the most important thing here to note is that this means that the meta will basically slightly change every day. Because, normally, like, when updates were coming out every week, some heroes became stronger, some heroes became weaker. People who don't play that much needed time to adjust. And here, we have this new wonderful mechanic that will basically make sure that there is... It will be very hard to form any kind of meta, because, key heroes might be missing every day from different lineups. For example, I want to go good stuff. Let's try, wait, Tidehunter is banned. How do I do that? Or, Doom is banned. Or, Troll Warlord is banned. Oh, damn, good stuff isn't that great anymore. And, these are just some examples. Actually, I don't even believe Doom will be part of the, good stuff Warrior Warlock comp anymore because, you know, Doom now has the Brute tag. I imagine it will actually replace the Warrior tag. So that's one thing to look out for. But anyway, like, yeah, for example, Tidehunter is suddenly banned, and suddenly your good stuff lineup is missing one key piece. So perhaps it's better to go something else, like, for example, Assassins. You know, Assassins, considering there are 9 of them, it will be really hard to ban like 1 or 2 that are going to have so much impact that Assassins are unplayable anymore. So this means that performance of some alliances that have a lot of members in them, like more than 6 or maybe 8 or 9, like Elusives or Assassins, or even Hunters, maybe, their performance will substantially increase because it's slightly harder to hit them where it hurts. So yeah, basically there is like, I almost want to say there is no meta in the game anymore, and there can't be. Obviously, it's probably not true, but I'm just so excited to say it that I just had to say it. You know, it's so cool. Like, you know, no more complaints about the game being stale because every day something different is happening. That is just awesome. And yeah, also one thing, I'm assuming that there will be, you know, enough heroes like in every tier, like they will try to ban heroes equally from every tier so that certain tiers aren't hurt as badly as others. Hopefully, anyway. But depending on what happens, how it works out, it might not even be necessary. So let's look at the numbers here. So every day, 8 to 12 heroes are detained and cannot be hired from the shop. So 8 to 12, considering the total hero pool is now going to be 72, detaining 8 to 12 heroes means that there will be a total of between 60 and 64 heroes in the pool. So 60 was the pool before this patch. I mean, is the pool before this patch hits, and 64 is, you know, only slightly more. And yeah, despite these absences, all alliances can still be fully completed. Ricky Ravenhook, so that's another character we haven't seen before. As you can see, Ricky Ravenhook says, extra what kind of voice should I give him, though? It's like a tiny raven chick, so should sound like,
extrajudicial imprisonment is a daily part of Wisper life. Caw, caw.
Something like that. I don't know. It was probably terrible, but I'm not gonna cut it out. I know I need to practice my voices, you know, for when I play different kinds of games. Very interesting, very cool new mechanic. Also, this bird kind of reminds me of Fumikage Tokoyami from My Hero Academia, for whoever watches that show. But yeah, not only we have found it adds a great variance to the game, oh yeah, that's variance all right, from day to day, but most importantly, we didn't see any change to the rate heroes can be ranked up. We hope you are all enjoying these previews while we get ready to release a big update. See you tomorrow, is what they say. So I'm assuming this means that tomorrow we're gonna start seeing some new, different features, like the Underlords themselves, perhaps. You know, they promised us they will introduce this new mechanic called Underlords. You know, the namesake of the game. So we better see it sooner than later. This is something to look forward to. Still, even though we already see a lot of stuff we want to look forward to, because this is all awesome. You know, awesome new heroes, awesome new mechanic that, you know, makes the game, always keeps the game fresh, essentially. But there is still more stuff to look forward to. So be sure to pay attention, to stick around, because I am definitely going to do more reviews here. And yeah, if you're enjoying what you're hearing here and seeing, consider, you know, liking, sharing, and subscribing, because that definitely helps out a lot. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, and take care, everybody.